Hello everyone. So you may be wondering what's the big deal about these in-text citations and references, and particularly to our class using APA format. And so this very brief video is going to discuss the purpose of in-text citations and references, the nuts and bolts of how to do them, as well as provide sources of help. So on this slide, we're comparing casual writing versus academic or scholarly writing. You do casual writing probably every day. You send text messages, emails, social media postings, and the purpose is to convey information or touch base or share parts of your life with family and friends. So that's the purpose, that's the audience, the style and the tone is very casual. And so that's what you do in your day-to-day life. That's very different than what you do for our class, which would be academic or scholarly writing. When you're writing a posting for me or a paper, this is your chance to show that you really know our course content. And so you're using the specialized terminology you've been reading in the textbook, and you're showing a certain level of expertise, and the writing style or tone is going to be much more formalized. You're not going to be giving those personal anecdotes. You're going to make sure you're using the proper writing mechanics, such as capitalizing the personal pronoun I and using commas and not having run-on sentences. So the purpose, the audience, and the style and tone are what really drives how you're writing your work. So why are in-text citations and references important? First, you want to have credibility. So what sources are you using? How are you supporting the arguments or assertions or claims that you're making? And so to have a persuasive, credible sort of posting for your work or a paper, you have to use credible sources and justify, why you're making the assertions that you're making. And then over here, the acknowledgement of intellectual property. All of the information that you're using for your work comes from other people, right? Because again, it's not that casual tone. You're trying to make an argument, you're trying to display information, but that's not your own information. And so whatever sources that you're using, and hopefully they're credible sources, you need to acknowledge that. You need to give, that in-text citation to say, hey, this information came from this person or these people. Verification is the third point. Can I go and find these sources that you've used? Can I make the connection of, yes, this was this person's idea? I can verify that with this reference. And ultimately in academia, we're always building on existing knowledge. So the ultimate idea that you're presenting, say in a paper or in a posting, may be a new idea, but it needs to build on, the forefathers that came before you, foremothers that came before you. You're building on other people's knowledge. And so those would be the reasons for in-text citations and references. They're very important. Now, the purpose of this slide is to show what in-text citations look like. So here's a paragraph from a research article that I found at our library by Zhang and colleagues. And you can see this first paragraph, they're kind of presenting their topic, but it's not their own idea. So the first sentence is, creative individuals perform better academically. That is not Zhang and colleagues' idea. Instead, the in-text citation at the end of that sentence, that's where that information comes from. Then right after that, semicolon, more information. Receive better job performance ratings from supervisors and make more sales. Okay, so that's the idea of Gong. And then it goes on. You can look through the paragraph. Pretty much at the end of each idea, it gives the source of where that idea came from. And so those are the in-text citations. Now below that paragraph, I took kind of a screenshot, just a slither of the reference page. And you can see from the very first citation at the top of the paragraph, that's how the reference is there below that. Okay, so it is worth mentioning, if you were reading this research article and you wanted to include that information in your paper or your posting, if you were using creative individuals perform better academically, you would not be citing Zhang, okay, where this paragraph came from, because that wasn't Zhang and colleagues' idea. Instead, it's, and I'm going to murder this name here, Chamorro Premuzic's idea. And so if you wanted to use that idea, it would become more complicated. You would have to say, oh, this idea by Chamorro Premuzic as cited in Zhang, because you didn't read the original article where this idea comes from. Instead, you're reading someone else's take on it. And so when at all possible, try to avoid secondary source citations and only cite the things that you're actually reading. So let's go over a couple more practical examples. So this here was posted for my example packback in class, right? And so here's the paragraph, and what I have highlighted here in gray shows an in-text citation. And typically in APA format, you do not need to provide a page number unless it's an actual quote. However, for the purposes of our course, so that I can match it up, even if it's not a direct quote, I would prefer a page number. And so this shows you how to format it. It's worth pointing out how you don't use the word and if there's more than one author, if it's in parentheses, okay? You put the author's last names, the comma, the year of publication, comma, the page number, and notice that the period goes after the parentheses. And then down here is the reference for this citation. Next slide, final example. This would have to do with the book I used for general psychology, and this is another way to do an in-text citation. Instead of having it in parentheses at the end of the sentence, you can start the sentence with it. Edinger, and then the year of publication, 2018, page number, comma, explains the functions for the different lobes of the brain. So you can use the author's name outside of parentheses and then just put the year of publication and page number within the parentheses, then the comma. So those are two different ways that you can format the in-text citation, and then down here again shows how to format the references. So in-text citations and references must match. Now there's some exceptions to this, like if you are interviewing some expert in a field where it's personal communication, but for the purposes of our class, if you cite it, it must be in the references. If you have a reference, it must be cited. And so again, that refers back to only cite and reference sources that you actually read. I've had students in the past where they're referencing dissertations. A dissertation is like a book. There's no way that that has been read for, within the context of our course, sort of thing. So if you cite something and you reference it, you better have made sure that you actually read it. Otherwise, if it was something that was cited somewhere else, it goes back to doing that secondary citation. Now, where can you find help for APA formatted in-text citations and references? Well, at our college library, you can find the page where it offers tutoring services. We have a chat feature where you can chat back and forth with a librarian saying, hey, I've got this source and I don't know how to cite it, and they can help you with that. You should note that they work normal business hours, so if you're working at on a Saturday night at 11 at night, the chat won't be available to you. Also, within our Canvas website, on the sidebar, we have access to BrainFuse online tutoring. If you click on that and then it'll say, do you want to launch it? And you click that, you'll go to the home page, and under expert help, you can see we have a writing lab or a tutor match or live tutoring. All of these are available to help you format these in-text citations, your references, and even kind of just like have fresh eyes on whatever you're working on and check for writing mechanics and typos and things like that. Other sources of help. Well, we're in psychology classes, right? So we've got the American Psychological Association, which is the source of APA format. You can go to their website and they have all sorts of help for you. Also, kind of the giant out there in terms of helping with APA format is called Purdue EDU, and that's just not APA formatting. They've got all the different types of styles of writing, such as MLA or Chicago are two other ones. Based upon what subject or discipline you're in, will determine what type of formatting you need to use. And then finally, one thing that I like to use is Citation Machine. So if you just Google Citation Machine, you'll go to their website. And again, they'll help you with APA, MLA, different formats, and they can help create citations, help with references. They can check your paper for grammar errors and plagiarism. So as you can see, there are lots of helps available to you. So I hope that this video was helpful.